We'll start this morning with some big breaking news.
Tyler Robinson has officially been charged with 7 offenses in connection with the killing of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, a development that has sent shockwaves through both political and online communities. The charges, brought forward after weeks of investigation, paint a grim picture of what authorities describe as a calculated and violent act that has reignited debates about political extremism, digital culture, and the boundaries of online influence spilling into the real world. Kirk, a prominent figure within conservative circles and the founder of Turning Point USA, was a highly recognizable voice in American politics, regularly sparking controversy through his sharp commentary and combative style. His sudden and violent death has created an uproar among his supporters and critics alike, pushing his name once again into the center of heated national conversations. According to prosecutors, Robinson faces a slate of serious charges including first-degree murder, possession of a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit assault, and 4 other related offenses that cover obstruction of justice and unlawful use of digital communications in the planning stages of the crime. The allegations suggest the killing was not an impulsive act but rather one preceded by deliberate planning and digital communication trails that investigators have been piecing together. Law enforcement sources have stated that Robinson had been active in online forums where Kirk's influence and rhetoric were often discussed, with some messages allegedly showing hostility and resentment toward the conservative commentator. These findings, if proven in court, would mark the case as one of the most high-profile politically tinged killings in recent American history. The killing itself has been described by witnesses as sudden and brutal. Reports indicate that Kirk was attacked in a public setting, causing immediate panic and chaos among those present. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but despite attempts to save him, Kirk succumbed to his injuries. The public nature of the incident ensured that details spread rapidly across social media, with videos and eyewitness accounts surfacing almost instantly. Within hours, hashtags bearing Kirk's name were trending across multiple platforms, and debates about the meaning of his death erupted. Supporters framed it as the silencing of a conservative voice by rising extremism, while detractors argued about the role Kirk himself played in polarizing public discourse. Regardless of perspective, the fact that his killing quickly escalated into a national conversation underscored the immense reach he had built during his career. Robinson's arrest came after an intense manhunt and a series of raids carried out in coordination with federal agencies. Investigators reportedly used surveillance footage, cell phone records, and digital communications to track his movements and establish a timeline of events leading up to the attack. Prosecutors emphasized in their initial statements that this case highlights the dangers of radicalization within online spaces and the ability of digital platforms to cultivate animosity that can result in real-world violence. This narrative has resonated strongly within ongoing debates about the regulation of social media, the accountability of digital platforms, and the extent to which online rhetoric can fuel deadly actions. Law enforcement has promised to bring forth detailed evidence in court that will show the planning stages and Robinson's alleged motivations in targeting Kirk. The charges have naturally drawn intense reactions from political figures across the spectrum. Conservative leaders expressed outrage and grief, framing the incident as part of a larger pattern of hostility toward right-wing voices in America. They called for swift justice and warned about the dangerous climate for outspoken figures on the political right. Liberal voices, while condemning the killing outright, have been more cautious in their commentary, some pointing out that political violence in any form should be universally condemned, while others warned against drawing conclusions before the legal process is complete. The polarized responses reflect not only Kirk's divisive legacy but also the increasingly fractured state of political discourse in the United States. Beyond politics, the case has sparked broader discussions about safety for public figures in an era where online influence often translates into real-world recognition and risk. Commentators have drawn parallels to past incidents where media personalities, journalists, or activists have been targeted because of their visibility and opinions. Kirk, who thrived on confrontation and often leaned into controversial takes, was both celebrated and vilified depending on the audience, making him an especially prominent target. The tragedy has reignited calls for enhanced security protocols for influencers and public commentators, particularly those operating in highly polarized political arenas. Analysts have warned that as online platforms continue to amplify political voices, the potential for threats against such individuals may only increase. Robinson himself has yet to enter a plea, and his legal team has indicated that they will contest the charges vigorously. Early statements from his defense suggest they may attempt to challenge the prosecution's narrative of premeditation, perhaps framing the killing as less calculated than investigators allege. However, given the seriousness of the charges and the evidence hinted at by prosecutors, the trial is expected to be closely followed and highly contentious. Legal experts predict it could become a defining case in terms of how political violence is prosecuted in the digital age, setting precedents for how online communications are treated as part of criminal investigations. For Kirk's supporters, the tragedy has already taken on symbolic weight. Vigils have been held in several cities, and conservative media outlets have been dedicating extensive coverage to both his life and the aftermath of his death. His influence, controversial as it was, has only grown in the wake of his killing, cementing him as a martyr-like figure in the eyes of some followers. On the other hand, his critics remain firm in their belief that his rhetoric contributed to polarization, though most acknowledge that his killing is a stark reminder of the dangers of allowing ideological battles to escalate into violence. The duality of his legacy ensures that his name will remain deeply embedded in America's political and cultural debates for years to come. As the legal process moves forward, all eyes will remain on Robinson's trial and the details that emerge about his motivations, methods, and state of mind. Whether this tragedy will lead to meaningful discussions about the role of online platforms, political rhetoric, and the protection of public figures remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that the killing of Charlie Kirk marks a watershed moment in the intersection of politics, media, and violence in America, a moment that forces the nation to confront uncomfortable truths about the consequences of its fractured discourse.